There's a man in his early 40s living in Dallas. He earns just over $320,000 a year. He drives a black leased Mercedes. He lives in a beautiful home in a gated neighborhood. His kids go to a private school. His watch is expensive. His vacations look impressive on Instagram. From the outside, he looks like he made it. The kind of person people quietly envy. But one Tuesday morning, his phone lights up with two messages almost at the same time. The first is from his accountant. He owes more in taxes than he expected. The second is from home. The air conditioning system needs to be replaced. The cost, $7,400. And suddenly, the image cracks. Because the truth is, he doesn't have the cash. Not sitting safely in an emergency fund. Not waiting in a savings account. Not ready without stress. So now he starts doing what a lot of high earners do when reality interrupts the lifestyle. He thinks about moving money around. He thinks about using a credit card. He thinks about delaying one payment to cover another. He tells himself it's temporary. And that is the part no one sees. They see the car. They see the house. They see the polished version of success. They do not see the pressure behind it. They do not see how a person can earn more in a month than many people earn in a year and still feel one unexpected bill away from panic. That is the high earner trap. It's not about being poor in the traditional sense. It's about building a life that looks rich, sounds rich, and impresses other people, while quietly becoming too expensive to breathe inside. Because once your income rises, your lifestyle usually rises with it. And if your lifestyle grows faster than your financial margin, then every success upgrade becomes another lock on the cage. You can look wealthy. You can sound successful. You can earn a lot and still feel broke where it matters most. And the unsettling part is this story is not rare at all. It is becoming normal. A lot of people still believe that income solves financial stress. They believe that once you cross a certain number, the anxiety disappears. Maybe at 50,000 it's hard. Maybe at 80,000 it's still tight. But surely by the time you hit 200,000, 300,000, 500,000, life should feel stable. That is what people assume. But real life often works very differently, because a bigger salary does not automatically create peace. It usually creates options. And if those options turn into obligations, then the extra income doesn't create freedom. It creates maintenance. That is the trap, that the person earning more starts spending more. Not in one dramatic jump, but in a slow, socially acceptable way. A slightly better apartment, a nicer car, more takeout because work is demanding, more travel because you deserve it, a school district that costs more, a house with rooms that mostly hold furniture and expectations. Each decision feels reasonable on its own. That is why the trap is so dangerous. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to build a life that requires every dollar I make. It happens gradually. And because it happens gradually, it feels normal. You don't feel reckless. You feel upgraded. You don't feel trapped. You feel successful. Until something small goes wrong, then suddenly the truth shows up. And the truth is simple. A high income can cover an expensive life. But that does not mean it builds a secure one. So let's talk about what the high earner trap really is. At its core, it is this. Your income goes up, your visible lifestyle goes up, but your actual freedom does not. That is the difference most people miss. A lot of people confuse income with wealth, but those are not the same thing. Income is what comes in. Wealth is what stays. Income is active. Wealth is stored. Income can disappear with a job loss, a health problem, a bad year in business, burnout, or a market shift. Wealth is what gives you options when that happens. And this is where the illusion begins. A person earning $300,000 a year can look financially powerful, but if they are spending almost all of it, they are not powerful. They are dependent. Dependent on the next paycheck, dependent on the next bonus, dependent on keeping the machine running. That is not wealth. That is high income dependence dressed up as success. And this is why some people with average looking lives are quietly becoming rich while some high earners stay under pressure for decades. Because real wealth is not built by what you signal. It is built by what you keep. Think about it this way. Two people can earn the same income and live completely different financial lives. One person earns $250,000 and saves aggressively. They invest automatically and they keep fixed costs controlled. They are not flashy, but they are building ownership. Another person earns the same amount and spends most of it. Nice car, expensive neighborhood, frequent dining out, luxury travel, high monthly obligations. Both look successful, but only one is becoming free. The other is renting an identity. And this is where lifestyle inflation enters the story. Lifestyle inflation is one of the quietest financial forces in modern life. It does not feel like overspending. It feels like progress. That is why it catches so many people. When you are underpaid and exhausted, a few upgrades feel justified. And often they are. A better mattress, a safer car, a nicer place to live, more convenience because your time matters. None of that sounds irrational. The problem is not one upgrade. The problem is the accumulation of upgrades. Because every upgrade has a monthly cost. And monthly costs have a way of becoming permanent. The $10 subscription becomes 5 subscriptions. The occasional food delivery becomes a habit. The reliable car becomes a luxury lease. The good neighborhood becomes the expensive zip code. The family vacation becomes the kind of vacation you now feel you have to maintain. At first, these changes feel small, but over time, they raise the floor of your life. And once the floor rises, it becomes very hard to lower it again. That is when high income stops feeling like abundance and starts feeling like maintenance. You are no longer earning to build. You are earning to sustain. And that is emotionally exhausting. Because no matter how much comes in, you start to feel like there is already a place for every dollar before it arrives. Mortgage, insurance, car payment, private school, dining out, trips, streaming services, memberships, upgraded groceries, home maintenance, property taxes, convenience spending. None of it sounds insane by itself. Together, it becomes a system that consumes your future. And here is where it gets even more interesting. A lot of high earners do not actually spend this way because they are trying to be irresponsible. They spend this way because they are responding to a powerful social message. That message is, if you earn more, you should look like it. This is where rich signals become dangerous. A rich signal is anything that communicates success to the outside world. A luxury car, a prestige neighborhood, designer items, expensive vacations, private schooling. exclusive memberships, a polished lifestyle that tells the world you're doing well. The issue is not that these things are evil. The issue is that they are often mistaken for proof of wealth, but many of them are not proof of wealth. They are proof of spending. That is a completely different thing. A leased car can signal income. It does not signal net worth. A large mortgage can signal approval power. It does not signal financial freedom. A beautiful lifestyle can signal consumption. It does not signal ownership. And this is one of the biggest misunderstandings in modern money culture. People are often taught to admire the symbols of wealth before they understand the structure of wealth. So they chase the image first. And by the time they realize the image is expensive to maintain, they are already attached to it. That is why some of the people who look the richest are actually some of the most financially fragile. Because fragility is invisible. No one sees the anxiety behind the image. No one sees the credit card balances. No one sees the nearly empty savings account. No one sees the fact that one missed bonus, one bad quarter, one medical surprise, or one expensive repair could throw the whole system into chaos. And yet, that is the emotional reality for many high earners. This is why they often say they feel broke. Not broke in the literal sense. Broke in the emotional sense. Broke in the flexibility sense. Broke in the I should feel safer than this sense. That feeling confuses people from the outside. Someone sees the salary and thinks, how can you possibly feel broke? But the feeling is real, because what many people mean when they say they feel broke is not, I have no income. What they mean is, I have no breathing room. That is the hidden definition. No breathing room, no margin, no flexibility, no peace. That is the inside of the trap. And once you understand that, the next part becomes easier to see. The hardest part of the trap is not entering it. The hardest part is leaving it, because downgrading feels much harder than upgrading. Upgrading feels like progress. Downgrading feels like failure. And that is not just financial. That is psychological. And a person can know they are stretched thin and still resist change because the lifestyle has become part of their identity. The car is not just transportation anymore. It is self-image. The house is not just shelter anymore. It is social proof. The school is not just education anymore. It is identity, class, and fear. The spending is no longer just spending. It becomes a story you tell yourself about who you are. And when spending becomes identity, cutting back feels like losing status. Even if the math says you should. Even if the stress says you must. Even if your future depends on it. That is why high earners often stay stuck for so long. Not because they are lazy, not because they are bad at math, but because human beings do not like reversing visible progress. And in many social circles, consuming less can feel like public decline. Driving a simpler car can feel like an announcement. Moving to a smaller house can feel humiliating. Cutting luxury travel can feel like failure. Pulling back can feel like admitting the life was unsustainable. So instead of changing the structure, people often try to out-earn the pressure. That works for a while, until it doesn't. Because every time income rises without intentional control, the lifestyle often rises right behind it. And that is how people spend years earning more while staying emotionally stuck in the same place. This is also where the long-term cost becomes brutal. The true cost of the high earner trap is not just monthly stress. It is lost compounding. It is lost years. It is the difference between looking successful now and being free later. Take two people earning the same high income. Let's say both earn $300,000 a year. One saves and invests 30%. That is $90,000 a year before growth. The other saves 5%. That is $15,000 a year. For 1 year, the difference feels large, but not life-changing. For 20 years, it becomes enormous. Because money compounds. But so do habits. One person is building ownership, options, and future peace. The other is funding a lifestyle that disappears the moment the income stops. That is the real tragedy. The high earner trap does not always look like disaster in the present. It often looks like comfort, and that is why people stay in it. It feels good enough to continue. It feels impressive enough to defend. It feels normal enough to justify. But underneath that comfort is a quiet trade. Present image in exchange for future freedom. And many people do not realize they made that trade until years are gone. That is why the trap is so expensive, and not because the spending is always outrageous, but because the opportunity cost is invisible. Every luxury you normalize has a hidden price. Not just in dollars, but in time, flexibility, and peace. Now, this is the part where many people assume the solution is deprivation. They think the lesson is live miserably, cut everything, stop enjoying life. But that is not the real lesson. The real lesson is intentionality, because the goal is not to remove joy. The goal is to stop confusing image with freedom. And some people genuinely value travel. Some genuinely value private education. Some genuinely love fine dining, beautiful homes, or premium experiences. That is fine. The issue is not spending. The issue is unconscious spending that slowly owns you. Real wealth builders understand that. They do not necessarily live small lives. They live intentional ones. They decide what matters most. Then they cut hard in the areas that do not. They spend where value is real. They stop spending where the main return is status. That is a huge difference. A real wealth builder might drive an ordinary car and aggressively invest. They might live in a nice but reasonable home. They might avoid constant lifestyle signaling. They might automate saving before they touch the rest. From the outside, they may look less impressive. From the inside, they are stronger. And strength matters more than appearance. Because strength creates options. Strength means you can handle surprises. Strength means you can say no to bad opportunities. Strength means you can survive a setback. Strength means your life does not collapse if your paycheck pauses. That is wealth. Not the look of it, the structure of it. So the real mindset shift is this. Stop asking, can I afford this? Start asking, what will this cost my freedom? That question changes everything. Because most high earners technically can afford many things. The better question is whether those things are worth the future pressure they create. A larger home may be affordable, but what does it cost your margin? A premium car may fit the budget, but what does it cost your investing rate? A luxury lifestyle may be possible, but what does it cost your ability to breathe? That is the question people need to ask far more often. Not, can I buy it? But what am I giving up by normalizing it? Because every recurring expense competes with your future. And once you see that clearly, the escape route starts to appear. The escape route begins with honesty. You have to look at the life you built and ask a hard question. Which parts of this life truly serve me? And which parts only serve the image? That is where change starts. Then comes a practical reset and first audit every recurring expense. Not once casually. Seriously. Look at everything that repeats every month. Housing, cars, subscriptions, dining, convenience spending, travel patterns, memberships, upgrades that no longer feel like upgrades because they became routine. Then separate them into 3 categories. What adds real value? What adds occasional comfort? What mostly protects an image? That 3rd category is where a lot of hidden waste lives. Second, define your freedom rate. Most people track income. Some track spending. Very few track the percentage of income that is actually building independence. That number matters more than the salary itself. A person earning $200,000 and investing 30% is often moving faster toward freedom than someone earning $400,000 and investing almost nothing. Third, automate wealth before lifestyle. Do not save what is left after spending. That usually fails. Build the saving into the system first. Make investing the first commitment, not the last hope. Fourth, put a ceiling on lifestyle upgrades. Every raise does not need a matching lifestyle expansion. You do not have to prove your new income to the world. You can keep part of it invisible. That invisible part becomes power. Fifth, define enough. This is where many people struggle. Because if enough is never defined, the target keeps moving. You hit one number and immediately compare yourself to someone at a higher one. You move into one neighborhood and start envying a better one. You upgrade one area of life and suddenly notice 3 more. Without a definition of enough, consumption becomes endless. And endless consumption guarantees endless pressure. So decide what kind of life actually matters to you, not what social media rewards, not what your peers signal, not what your industry quietly pressures you into. What do you actually value? Then build around that. Because the goal is not to spend the least. It is to spend in a way that protects your future. That is the difference between a lifestyle and a strategy. A lifestyle consumes, a strategy compounds. And once you understand that, the entire title of this video becomes clearer. The high earner trap is not really about income. It is about dependence. It is about how easy it is to build a polished life that needs constant feeding. It is about becoming externally impressive and internally fragile. It is about mistaking approval for freedom. And that is why so many people feel rich on the outside and broke on the inside. Not because they failed to earn, but because they never learned that a high income can be wasted just as easily as a low one. The truth is, there are people earning modest incomes who are becoming stronger every year. And there are people earning extraordinary incomes who are quietly running in place. The difference is not just salary. It is structure. It is behavior. It is awareness. It is intention. So if this video feels uncomfortable, that may actually be a good sign. Because discomfort often appears right before clarity. Maybe you are not trapped yet. Maybe you only see the early signs. Or maybe you have already built a life that looks better than it feels. Either way, the trap becomes easier to escape the moment you stop pretending the image is enough. Because the real goal was never to look wealthy. The real goal was always to become free. And freedom does not come from showing people how well you're doing. It comes from building a life that does not collapse under its own appearance. That is the lesson. The trap is not earning too little. The trap is needing too much to maintain the version of success other people can see. Real wealth begins when your money starts buying space, not applause. When it buys margin, when it buys options, when it buys peace. And if you can learn that before the lifestyle hardens around you, you can change the rest of your financial future. So ask yourself one honest question. Are you building wealth or are you financing an image? If this made you think, drop your answer in the comments. And if you want more videos on wealth psychology, lifestyle traps, and how people really build financial freedom, subscribe and stay with me for the next one.